Hello everyone, thank you for joining our third webinar in the series of 6. The focus of this webinar will be how an international internship can further your career. And I'm joined by Rachel Davenport, who is CRCC Asia's UK Regional Assistant. And we're delighted to be joined by Dan White from Wiki Jobs, who is the Head of Media. And my name's Edward Pitcher. I'm the UK Marketing and PR Coordinator for CRCC Asia. So without further ado, we'll start the slideshow. Okay, so I'm just going to introduce CRCC Asia and just give you sort of a brief overview of how the business started out. CRCC Asia was founded in 2006 by Daniel Niven and Edward Holroyd Pierce. Daniel is a graduate from Oxford University and Edward is a graduate from Cambridge University. And they met whilst they were doing a master's course at SOAS University in Chinese. We have a third director as well, Thomas Kirkwood, who joined CRCC Asia in 2008. Daniel and Edward formed CRCC Asia because they realised that there weren't that many connections between the UK and China at that time, that many business connections, and they formed CRCC Asia with the aim of connecting the UK with China more. And then it became apparent that especially with young people, there were a lot of young people that hadn't visited China or didn't have sort of in-depth knowledge about China. So in 2008, they started the internship program, which has sort of taken over the bulk of our company and is what we really deal with on a day-to-day basis. Okay, so Rachel's just going to talk about what you can gain from interning abroad.
Okay, so some of the benefits from interning abroad, starting with the most important one maybe, is the opportunity to differentiate yourself. So it's still relatively few people who can claim to have this type of international experience, and it can really set you apart from the crowd. This is particularly true in the case of your CV, where you may have similar academic track record or employment experience as other people, but having that experience abroad is really valued by potential employers. Secondly, it's the experience in your field. So it's the chance to apply theoretical knowledge in a practical work environment, and it's vital in getting that experience for your chosen sector. So CRCC Asia, for example, work with a really wide range of sectors, right through from finance and accounting, legal, marketing, PR and advertising. So no matter where your expertise lie, you can get a program that will help you to develop on those and help you to gain experience in that field. Then also there's the benefit of having experience in a foreign work environment. So it shows you you're adaptable to business etiquette in different countries that you may not have experience of before. So your work experience might be limited in that sense. And showing that you're able to adapt to that is something that an employer is going to look upon very favourably. China in particular has a very unique business culture that we'll go on to discuss later, but having experience of that is a great asset to have. So moving on from that, you get transferable skills as well. So the opportunity to work successfully with other cultures, the adaptability, creative problem solving and flexibility, and cross-cultural understanding as well as new perspectives. Another really important one is the global network that you'll build from doing an international experience like that. You never know where your future career is going to take you and where having a global network is going to become important in the future. So having those opportunities available to you might be something that you didn't realise could help you on. This is also important for a potential employer as well. They're going to be really impressed if you can come to them with a global network, and they're going to they're going to be really impressed if that's something that you've already built up. You have a network in other countries and you have people that you can talk about in that sense. There's also the language proficiency. I think the benefits of having a language are obvious. You know, it gives you being in a foreign environment is the best opportunity to immerse yourself in another language that you can have. And it's the best way to gain the fundamentals of a language as well, is being there in person. If you choose to then develop on that, that's great, and you can take it further and develop your language skills to the next level. And having a second language is an invaluable experience and an invaluable skill that you can have for your future. Then, of course, there's the independence. So for many of the people on our program, this is their first solo international experience. It's a great way to build confidence and to prove to yourself just how much you're capable of if you put yourself up to the challenge. So all of these things, they show how you can become more marketable and competitive candidate on the job market. These are invaluable skills in helping you secure employment in the future. And then these skills also continue on once you have found employment. So it's a great way to make a smoother transition into full-time employment. So if you have become used to an office environment or how to conduct yourself professionally, you'll be able to adapt easier wherever your employment might take you, whether it's back home or in another place. And finally, of course, it's an adventure as well and an opportunity to see the world. So there is a great focus professionally and how it can improve you professionally, but also personally as well. So there's a lot of fun to be had. A lot of our interns choose to travel either around China or around Asia more generally once they've finished, and it might be something that you wouldn't choose to do otherwise. So it's a really great push to get you to do that. So these are just a few things to show how the trends towards international experiences and study abroad has changed. So the British Council survey found that 37% of undergraduates and postgraduates said they were considering overseas study, and that's a 17% rise compared with the same poll taken last year. 1/3 of UK adults that had not spent time living or studying abroad felt that it had harmed their career prospects. And among the under 25 age group, 54% believe that a lack of global experience was holding them back. So it just shows it's really the right time to do it, and it's becoming more and more popular as people see the benefits. And then again, the same follows for internships. So although this is actually from the US, I think the same holds true here in the UK. So of those who graduated in 2013, 62%, nearly 2/3, have participated in at least one internship or cooperative education assignment. 62% is a record high, edging out the former 57% in 2008. And then just some statistics that reflect that more generally here in the UK. So Vincenzo Raimo, director of Nottingham University, suggested that there are currently around 22,000 British students on degree courses abroad. And while that sounds a lot, in perspective, that's only 1.7% of the entire student population. So it's still a relatively unique experience to take on. And if you break that down a bit further, you can also see that British students are mainly studying, so in the US there's 8,500, France 2,600, and Germany around 2,200. So again, the China experience, that's something that is going to differentiate you and going to stand out even among people who are having international experiences. So just to follow up on that, the quote from here from Vincenzo Raimo talking about that, saying, Britain's mass education system makes it difficult for students with degrees to differentiate themselves in a marketplace. If they studied abroad, however, they will look much more independent and will have learned important new skills like languages.
Okay, and I think that's a really interesting point, and I think it's something as a company that we've seen. Obviously, when we started out, we were sending small numbers of people to China, but we've definitely seen an increase in our program's popularity. So in 2009, we sent about 250 interns out to China, and the numbers have pretty much doubled year on year. And we sent over, or we're hoping to send over 1,700 individuals out this year. And although that is quite a big number, if you look at it as a standalone figure, compared to the amount of students in the UK, it's still a very unique experience, as Rachel said, and it is something that can differentiate yourself from the crowd. Okay, so I'm just going to talk quickly about China. Obviously, this is where our expertise lies. So we'll just give you China as a case study for doing an international internship. And firstly, we'll look at it. I'll tell you exactly why people choose China. So one of the main draws is the Chinese culture. It's a really interesting mix of ancient and modern culture. I often see China almost like a continent, not like a country, because there's so many different regions and there's so many different places. I mean, if you compare the growth of Shanghai in the last 20 years to being a major financial hub in China, with an incredible, well-renowned skyline and a lot of international business. You've got that on one side, and on the other side, you've got the Great Wall, which has been around for thousands of years. You've got small businesses that have been operating through families for hundreds of years, and there's a real mix. And it's a really interesting place to visit generally on a cultural level. As Rachel spoke about earlier, the Chinese business culture and business practices are very different, and this is something that often people want to learn about. So there's two key differences: Mianzi, the concept of face or respect, and Guanxi, which is the concept of relationships or networking. And business works differently in China, and people want to see that firsthand and be able to bring that back to employers in their home country and say that they've experienced it. The language is a big draw as well. Mandarin is now the most spoken language in the world, and as China connects more with the rest of the global community, employers are looking for people who have Mandarin skills, and it's becoming extremely sought after. It's a really interesting language to learn, and it's very different from the traditional languages that you might have studied, such as French and German. So we're seeing more of a shift now towards Mandarin. And all of this is related to the fact that China is the world's second largest economy and the world's largest exporter of goods. It's set to overtake the US in the next few years as the world's largest economy. And this is something that will mean that there'll be more opportunities for people. And as I said, as China connects more with the global community, there's more opportunities for people around the world to get that China experience and to apply it to their career. So employers are well aware that a real understanding of China is a big plus. And we think that this, we've seen this through success stories of people who have undertaken our internship program. So we did a survey and found that 89% of CRCC Asia alumni are employed in a graduate level job within 3 months upon returning to their home country. And we found that 30% of CRCC Asia interns receive a full-time job offer from their host company upon the completion of their internship. So that's both sides of the coin. Both Chinese companies see the experience as something that's valuable, but also employers in the intern's home country also value the China experience. Okay, so we've just got a couple of testimonials from people that have been on our program. So Mark Pettit is now working as a policy and commercial advisor in the Cabinet Office, the UK government, and he said that the internship set him apart from other applicants and can really set you on your way to your dream graduate career or job. And he took a 1-month business internship in Shanghai. And Matthew Bowerman said that he believed that his internship experience was one of the major factors which helped him secure his graduate job at Ernst & Young in their tax and law division. And this is something that I find, I talk to alumni on a daily basis, and a lot of people say that it's the one thing that's picked up on from employers when they apply for a job. If you spent 1 or 2 months or 3 months in Beijing or Shanghai working for a Chinese company or an international company, it really sets you apart and makes you stand out. Okay, so just to reiterate that point, as I said, we've got Dan White here from Wiki Jobs, and we just wanted to ask him a few questions. So to give you an employer's perspective of an international experience, an international internship experience. So we're just going to ask him a few questions related to that. So yeah, firstly, Dan, can you just tell me about Wiki Jobs, give me a little bit of background to the company, and tell me about your operations globally as well?
Sure. Okay. So Wiki Job is the UK's leading graduate media for candidate engagement, graduate engagement, a place where people come to discuss graduate opportunities, and there's lots of opportunities for them to interact and discuss opportunities in the UK, but also opportunities abroad. So yeah, it's a really great resource, and that's fundamentally what it was set up to do. It was set up as a resource for students and graduates to talk about career opportunities. On the back of that, we now have one of the most widely used graduate jobs boards as well. But fundamentally, our aim is to help candidates engage about career opportunities.
Okay. And do you work with China, and do you work across the globe? Whereabouts are your candidates based?
Sure. Okay. So although physically we're based in the UK, we're an online business. So actually we receive visits from all around the world. We get about 10,000 monthly visits from people outside of the UK in the EU. We get around 20,000 visits from Australia and India, and then from the US and Canada we get about 30,000 monthly visits. And actually 40% of our candidate interactions from candidates outside of the UK, which is interesting. But yeah, we receive in the region of 10,000 monthly visits from China alone. So that goes to show, that candidates from China are looking for careers guidance, opportunities in the UK, or sharing their experiences of working in China. We've got our forum resource, which if you visit wikijob.co.uk/forums, there's a section dedicated to international opportunities, and there is actually a section specifically for Asia Pacific where candidates can go and interact, and perhaps we can start a forum about CRCC Asia and get some interaction on there, and maybe you guys can ask some more questions.
Yeah, sure. And so from your perspective, what do you think completing an international internship tells an employer?
Sure. Well, I think both you and Rich have covered quite a lot of the points, but it definitely tells an employer that you're worldly, you're likely to have greater life skills than other candidates, and that you can work across cultures. And it also shows that you're motivated to challenge yourself and try new things.
Okay, great. And just following on from that, building upon that, I mean, what do you think employers are looking for in today's market? It's obviously very competitive. There's record numbers of graduates each year. What do you think they're exactly sort of searching for?
I think having recently started a new job myself and been interviewing, employers look for demonstrable skills and experience. So it's one thing if you claim to have a particular skill, but another thing entirely to be able to provide examples of how you demonstrate that skill. Mm-hmm. So you need to be prepared for lots of situational interview questions where you need to back up what you're claiming.
Sure. And what qualities do you look for in a potential new hire?
I suppose it very much depends on the role, but as a general rule, I'd say someone who presents himself well, okay. Someone who's a good communicator, and also that they've prepared adequately, making sure that they've researched and understand the opportunity and the organisation.
Sure. And have you had any personal experience abroad, and can you tell us about that?
Yeah, sure. So I've worked in Japan. I've worked in the US. So France and the US were placements. I worked in the States on an estate whilst I was doing my degree. In France, I was working in a school, and then in Japan, I went out there for a year to teach English as a foreign language, and I actually loved it so much that I ended up staying there for 4 years. So, and yeah, it taught me so much. I managed a language school, I provided teacher training, I did sales pitches to prospective students and companies that wanted to study business English. So I learned a bit of Japanese as well, although I should be much more fluent. Yeah, and I think the diversity of the experience overseas is completely invaluable.
So do you think that's helped with the position that you've got now and helped you with your career?
Definitely, and the transferable skills that you get, and being adaptable, being able to work with people from diverse backgrounds, being able to communicate across boundaries and barriers, and kind of problem solving. Yeah, there's so many things that I've gained from working abroad. Absolutely, yeah. Sure. As I say, completely invaluable experience.
Great. Well, yeah, thank you very much. That was really interesting. So Dan will be hanging around for questions at the end. So if you want to ask Dan anything directly about Wiki Jobs or about his international experience, you can submit a question And as I said, he'll be hanging around to answer those. Okay, so just a few quotes from the media about international experience, and some of them are specifically about China. So we picked up a quote from Bloomberg. I think this was from a couple of months ago, from an article that said it is so important that the rest of the world starts to understand China. And the Wall Street Journal backed that up by saying that this was a quote from someone that had done some international work experience in China, and said that I'd been told repeatedly that my work in China looks great on my resume. So generally, we wouldn't say, just specifically China, working in China is the only option. Obviously, we feel passionately about what we do, and we feel that it really does boost your CV, but any sort of international experience, an international internship can be really useful and help you with your career. So we've just got a short video for you that we're going to play, so hopefully you'll be able to see this.
I was struggling to get internships back in the UK. In undergrad, a lot of my friends went abroad and did that, semester abroad thing, but I never did that. I thought that was a big mistake because once you start working, it's really hard to take that time off. And the only program I could find that looked good was CRCC Asia.
I just saw internship in China next to all the jobs that I was thinking of applying, so I just looked at it and said, why not?
One of the things I was worried about was just too much paper shuffling, copying, and stuff like that interns and very would have to do. And then another was with the work that I was doing here translate back home to an American company. The program that CRCC Asia offered here gives you basic skills in communication, analysing, just being able to work in a busy office to tight deadlines. Most of the stuff I've been learning on the fly, and I had to ask my supervisor all the time about certain aspects and do a lot of research, so it's been a great experience.
This is one of the shoes from last year's collection. Pretty much my work here is finding different ways to sell the shoes, marketing them.
It also gives you a great opportunity to say, I did X at my placement and I achieved Y. And that's what you really need in the CV, not just to say you did all this, but to say you actually got these results.
What I loved about it is the people that are part of the program with me. They are a very talented group of people.
And it's guaranteed instant friends because you've got people you're living with. It's very intense. It's like being back at uni in terms of halls.
I really like the people that I work with. Most of the people here are my age or around my age.
You say you do that on the weekends and quite often during the week as well when you maybe should be sleeping. I feel like anytime I have a problem, I just email another CRCC employee and I get a response within an hour or two.
Support for the staff has been very, very good.
Yeah, I have more problems. They've been more helpful, but so far they've been helpful that I have had. It's one of those things you have to do to understand. Yeah, I mean, without CRCC Asia, I probably wouldn't have met, all these people from Australia, England, South Africa, Argentina. You'll come here for a month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever program you choose to do, and you'll get home and people say, what's it like, but you can't really explain it to them unless you've been here. I think this experience in total has, really persuaded me that working abroad is definitely a viable career option after law school.
It's a very good program, you learn a lot, and I'm just having so much fun.
It's the easiest way of gaining really good practical professional experience in China, or anywhere really.
Okay, we hope you were able to see that. I know we had a few technical difficulties earlier on, but hopefully you could see that. If not, you can check out our YouTube channel. And we've got a lot of different videos about our internship program and about international experience. So we'll just talk quickly about how do you go about getting an international internship. So we'd say, firstly, obviously think about what country interests you. I mean, this has got to be the biggest consideration if you're thinking of going abroad. Ask yourself what country specifically you want to go to, and also why. What interests you about that country in particular? You should also obviously think about which sector you're interested in. So it's no good thinking, I want to go to this country, or I'm very interested, for example, in China, but having no idea of what sort of experience you want to have and what sort of company you want to work for. So it might be related to your degree, it might not be. And we have people on our program who have taken a degree in one subject and taken an internship in something completely different because they've realized that they don't want to continue with their degree as part of their career, but there's still skills that they can transfer over and apply to an internship in a different sector. So research is key. See exactly how you can make this happen. Once you know which country you want to go to and what sector you're interested in, have a look on the internet. Potentially speak to people if you that have been on a similar program, either at your university, or get in touch with a company, and they can normally pass you on to relevant alumni. We have an extensive alumni network, and if anyone wants to get in touch with people directly that have been on our program, we're happy to supply the details of some people if you feel this would be beneficial. Also speak to advisors. This can be advisors at a company. Our team are willing to speak to and happy to speak to anyone that has any general questions, but also speak to people at your university and other people potentially in businesses close to you that might have had an international experience, or brothers and sisters that might have been abroad. Also attend events and information sessions. Often there'll be networking events or company events that are relevant to what you want to do. CRCC Asia visits a lot of universities, and we do a lot of cultural presentations. We attend a lot of fairs. These are all on our website, so check that out if you want to meet us directly and ask us any questions. And then finally, of course, you have to apply for the program that you want to go on.
So if you choose to apply for CRCC Asia, you can do so through our website. In the top right-hand corner, there's a big red button that tells you to apply. All you need to do to start with is to fill in your personal information and to give us a bit of an idea about what you want to do out in China. So whereabouts you want to go. We have 3 different locations, so either Beijing, Shanghai, or Shenzhen, and how long you want to go for and what sector you're looking to do your internship in. Then you just give us a brief idea about why you want to go out to China and what you're interested in doing the program. And if you get through that stage, then we're going to invite you to a telephone interview where we get to know you a bit better, get to discuss what you really want to get from your placement and what you're looking to do out in China. So there's many ways that you can connect with CRCC Asia. I'd say your first port of call should be our website. There's a whole wealth of information about the different sectors, about the different locations, and about how we operate as a company generally. So definitely check that out first. But also we're really active on Facebook and Twitter. We're regularly updating both, so get connected to those and you can find out more information through there. And then there's a whole other range of social media as well which we use, so they're worth checking out. So our office is based here in London, but we also have global offices across the world, from the US to Australia, also in Europe as well. We have offices in Italy and Madrid, and obviously our offices out in China. So wherever you are in the world, there's still a chance to get connected.
Okay, so stay tuned over the next 3 months for the following featured topics and discussions. So our next webinar will be on October the 15th at 1 p.m. and that will be on what kind of companies CRCC Asia works with. We'll then talk about life in China as a foreigner on November the 12th, and top 10 tips for networking in China will be the final installment of our webinar series, and that's at 1 p.m. on December the 17th. So thank you very much for joining us. We're going to try and enable the question and answer app, and you can ask either myself, Rachel, or Dan any questions that you might have. So just bear with us 1 second. Okay, so we've got a question here. Someone saying, why should someone choose to do an internship in China rather than in other developing countries? So I'll answer this one. I think, we wouldn't say that you specifically have to do an internship in China. Any international experience in a whole range of countries can be really interesting. But there are specific benefits to interning in China. As I said, it's the second largest economy in the world, and it's something that employers really pick up on. It's something that makes you stand out. There's not that many people that actually go to China and work for a company, whether that be a Chinese company or an international company. So we do feel that it is something that differentiates you. But as we've reiterated throughout this presentation, any international experience is worthwhile, and any international experience can make you stand out from other people. Okay, so we're just waiting on some other questions. If you do have a question, feel free to ask. We will be hanging around for the next 5 to 10 minutes, so we can answer any questions you have.
Yeah, I think we are suffering something of a time delay on
the
internet, unfortunately.
Sure, yeah, there might be a slight delay as well. So we've got another question here. So, okay, so how easy is it for interns to network in China outside of their internship host company and other people on the CRCC Asia programs? Would you like to answer that, Rachel?
Yeah, okay, so there are lots of opportunities for networking out in China. It's one of the main ways of conducting business out there. So although we do provide networking events through the CRCC Asia program, we're happy to get you help setting up more. There's always things going on, and you'll hear about them while you're out there as well. People will be handing you their business cards, telling you about their networking events, and there's always opportunities to do so. And even networking with other interns on the program as well. It's like we said earlier, building up your global network, having people that you can talk to if you're going to be in a different country at another point.
Okay. So Mark Dawson's asking, what kind of businesses are there in China? So it's quite a difficult question to answer. Obviously, the sort of companies we work with are sort of split 50-50 between Chinese companies and international companies. There's a whole range, and it really depends from city to city as well. So, for example, Shenzhen is known to be very tech-friendly for businesses. It's known as the Silicon Valley of China, and it's also home of the second stock market in China, so there's quite a few financial institutions. But Shanghai is known for more finance-orientated and international businesses, whereas Beijing is slightly more bureaucratic, so obviously where the government is. And so, for example, the legal sector is really prevalent in Beijing. So it is a difficult question to answer because it's really varied and it really changes from city to city. But a lot of industries are expanding massively, and they've expanded massively over the last sort of 15 to 20 years. If you want more specific information about the sort of businesses in each city, you can go on our website, or you can ask us another question now, and we can give you a bit more information if you want to go into more specific detail. Okay, so another question. To engage with China through your career or to work in China long term, how necessary is it to speak Mandarin? Would you like to answer, Rachel?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I think if you're looking really in the long term, of course, it shows really you have to get involved to a certain extent in learning some Mandarin. Definitely, there's a limit to how far you're going to get without taking anything on, and it doesn't really show that you're respecting the idea that you want to get involved in the Chinese market. So, while if you're going on the internship program, you don't have to have any Mandarin to start with. I mean, most of our interns go out there and they don't have any Mandarin at all. They're complete novices. But it's the people who really get involved with our survival Chinese language lessons that are included in the program that get the most out of it. And you'll really enjoy it as well if you have some Mandarin that you can bring to the office, and your colleagues as well are going to appreciate that.
Okay. Got another question here from Sandra, who says, even with some international work experience in hand, there are still some companies who are not willing to sponsor an international graduate. What advice would you give? So obviously this is the case for a lot of people. They intern abroad or spend time in a country and would like to stay there and would like to get sponsorship, and it can sometimes be very difficult. Sometimes it's just that the company can't do it at that time. So we'd say it's really important to maintain contact with the company. Just because they say no in the first instance doesn't mean in the future that an opportunity might arise where they could potentially sponsor you. So maintain good relations, keep in contact with people. But also, we really encourage people, especially on our program, to network extensively outside of the company as well. So attend relevant networking events for your sector, and potentially that could lead to opportunities in other companies as well. But we say don't get disheartened. Don't go out there thinking you're 100% it's going to happen. You'll get sponsored, because it is difficult. But stay in contact with people who you've worked with in the country, and also attend as many networking events as possible is the advice that I would give. Okay, so Mark's asking, when you take part in an internship, will the business be able to offer you a job? So we touched upon this in the presentation. We said around 30% of CRCC Asia program participants get offered a job by their host company, but it's significantly less actually take up that offer. That might be because they have further study to do. They might have to come back and do a year of university, or it might just be the wrong time for them. They might prefer to try and find something back home. So we would definitely say it's not guaranteed that you get a job from our program, but there are opportunities to connect with people, and if you work hard in your company and they are looking to hire and there's a place for you, then it has happened in the past. We've had numerous people that have stayed on in China who have managed to get employment out of the internship. So whilst it can happen, we definitely say whilst it is a possibility, it's definitely not a certainty. Okay, another question. Would you recommend taking part in the CRCC Asia programs either before, during, or after your degree? Rachel?
Yeah, so I mean, we have a really wide variety of people taking part in the program. I'd say the majority of our interns are either recent graduates or current students, but we have had even people who are school leavers as well. It's important to bear in mind that, especially if you're going into something that's technically specific, you need to have a bit of a background before you can do it. Also, just having a theoretical knowledge that you want to take out to China, sometimes you might not have developed that until later on in your degree. But it kind of depends on the individual about when the time is best suited to you and when you want to get out there. So there's no need to put it off if you don't feel that it's going to benefit you after your degree, because we do summer programs as well that fit in around the university term time, and yeah, a lot of people do get involved in that way.
And Dan, from your personal experience, what do you think about that? Do you feel that it's best to do an international experience before your degree, during your degree, or after your degree?
I think probably in hindsight, I would say try and make it part of your education if you can. If you can fit it in. I did a sandwich year, so my second year of my degree was spent abroad, but then I joined a graduate program, and after I finished that graduate program, I then went over to Japan. And actually, probably, if I could have fitted that experience in before getting onto a graduate program, then probably I would have done that. But either way, I mean, I think any experience overseas looks great on your CV and really sets you apart from other candidates at interview or assessment.
Sure. I mean, from my personal perspective, I'd say that there's no reason to just do it at one stage. You don't have to just do it during your degree or after your degree. I took a gap year before university. I had international experience throughout my degree as well. And when I left, I tried to get myself, out and visiting different countries. So, I actually did it before, during, and after, and it is possible. It just requires hard work and a lot of planning and the willingness to do it. Okay, and another question. After a CRCC Asia internship program, is it possible to obtain references? So Rachel, maybe your best position to...
Yeah, so I mean, it is possible. You can definitely put the internship on your CV, and you don't have to mention that it's through CRCC Asia if you don't want to mention that. In terms of references, we can provide references, but we can't comment on your job performance. So we can say that you've taken part in the internship. But if you build a good relationship with your host company and you can go back to them in the future, they will be able to provide you a reference, and that should be the case if you've been working hard and you've left with a good impression there.
Okay, great. So we'll just hang around for a minute or so more and see if there's any more questions. So like I say, we can answer any questions that you have, whether they're a bit more general about international work experience or a bit more specific about China maybe, or our programs. So Dan, which country did you enjoy working the most? Did you?
Well, I mean, I loved being out in the States, but obviously my heart has always been in Asia. You know, my partner is Japanese, and she works for an airline. You know, she works for a Hong Kong-based airline. So Asia has always been a big part of my life, and you know, and yeah, no doubt we will end up moving back out to Asia at some point.
Yeah,
yeah, love the food, love the culture, and it's a fantastic experience, and yeah, I wouldn't be without that experience.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay, so I think that's all the questions that we have here. So yeah, thank you very much for joining us today, and check out our website for dates of future webinars. But I'd like to thank Rachel and specifically thank Dan for coming in today and sharing his experience. So thank you very much, guys, and thank you to all of those that tuned in.